Well, I'll start. Hi, I'm Lisa Ferrell, and as Justice said, I'm a producer in town, but I'm also on the executive board for the Georgia Production Partnership, and we are the association that we're comprised of all members of the industry, and our mission is to maintain the tax incentive that is helping to propel the growth of not just film but TV here in the state of Georgia. And so I come at it from going around and promoting Georgia film, and plus I'm also a producer who does her own work. But one of the things that I see is that, and what I tell everybody about like film in Georgia, especially now, is that like the entire state is a part of the film industry. You don't have to uh, be behind a camera. You don't have to have an art degree. When they come to town to film a movie, I don't care what town it is, they need to eat, they need hotels, they need clothing. So the future, what I see for the future of Georgia film is that it will become a state occupation where we'll also not be just a location state, but we'll have above the line people who will be able to greenlight. We'll bring people in who will be able to educate our industries on how to finance and how to give. We've already got entertainment lawyers here who are helping us build like a firm foundation. So yeah, the future of Georgia film is bright from where I'm sitting.
All right, yeah, like Lisa hit it. We've got the tax credits exploded the industry here, $2 to $3 billion of annual direct spend, so a lot more in economic impact as well. So we've seen that, and we're going to see that growth continue. I was meeting with the head of IATSE 479, the union that does a lot of the work on films. He's expecting it to double again within the next few years. It's been doubling every few years already. Obviously, on my end, on the game side, we've already seen the game industry explode here. We're now the seventh largest in the country. You got $550 million economic impact here, thousands of people working in games. This month, the two hottest virtual reality games in the world have come or are coming out of Georgia. Tripwire's Killing Floor Incursion. It's the number one thing that Facebook is pushing for Oculus right now. That launched in the middle of the month. Tuesday, CCP is releasing Spark, and that's going to be the big one from Sony. So we're seeing these tremendous games come out if you're already. So what's the future? Believe it or not, it's you people. It's all of you folks in the audience. The number one area. So we got the film industry built up, the Georgia Film Academy, all the schools here. Now we've got this incredible talent base. Game side as well. A lot of incredible people. We've got studios here, 400 people, programmers, artists, designers, etc. But the next area to explode is definitely animation. So we've already got great shows coming out of here. Archer and everything else is just wonderful. And yeah, Archer got an Emmy. It's nominated or won it. Whatever. They've in my heart they have many Emmys. They won the Emmy. All right. Now the great news though is that Floyd County and the other animation houses aren't stopping there. Everybody right now is seeing how successful it is here, and they're trying to throw animation work down here. I mean, it's everybody trying to throw. Netflix has already announced that America, the motion picture, is going to be created here in Georgia, I believe, by Floyd County. There are some other great ones that I've heard of that I can't talk about yet, but and in the game side, we need y'all. Art, digital artists, animators are some of the most in demand fields right now. If you go to the high res website right now, you'll see some great art positions that they're trying to fill at this moment, and it's going to blow up. So, right now, the need is for really talented and really reliable digital artists and animators. So, the future of entertainment in Georgia is y'all.
To piggyback off that, animation has only been in Georgia for a little under 3 decades. It's very new. Unlike games and live action, we're just starting to bud, and we're already exploding. We're the fifth largest house for animators in the nation. So if you're going to be an animator in the US, this is definitely a place for you to be. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has already anticipated in the next 5 years us having 4,300 new jobs just in animation and new media. So when I think about where people are going with animation and the fact that open source is changing the game, a lot of studios are moving towards cheaper and cheaper animation tools, which means more and more content. And because we have open source for distribution with YouTube and with Twitch and with other streaming um, programs online, you're able to have more diverse content from more diverse creators. So it's no longer Hollywood has a monopoly over who gets to say what, and it's no longer them pushing their ideals on you. Viewers, I believe in 2016, AT&T Foundry did a study that said now it's 50-50 with the content that people want to view when it comes to consumption. So it's going to be 50-50 between what Hollywood is saying, this is what we think you should think. And then the other 50% is what you think Hollywood should be showing you. So Netflix is changing it up right now with their original content. You see that happening with Hulu. And you even see that happening with Facebook, who just joined with College Humor. And they're going to start making original content based on the algorithms that you have input saying that this is the content we want to see.
Yeah, kind of just piggybacking off the what's been said here. I speak kind of honestly, so one of the things, like, I'll just say honestly, Atlanta, Georgia, one of the things for years, one of the things we've had kind of this complex about, we're not New York, we're not LA. Whether you be in animation, whether you be in art, whether you be in film, and at some point, what happens is you get to a certain point in your career, and you have to make this choice about, do I leave Atlanta? Do I leave Georgia? And over the last like 10 years, I'd say even before the tax incentive came into place, things have started changing. In the last 5 years, that's really kind of accelerated. So the real future to me of entertainment Georgia is the fact that people really now have a choice about staying here in Georgia, staying here in Atlanta, and really building their careers and really figuring out like what they want to do. And a part of that is also the fact that we're now really becoming like a real huge community. Like, one of the things that's been an advantage that Atlanta and Georgia's had over most states outside of maybe New York and LA and a few places like Austin, is that we've always had a sizable crew base. We've had a large number of schools. We have had an advantage that a lot of other places haven't. And we're really starting to see that really come to fruition as this community kind of grows. This conference would not exist at this point. Like, if this was like 5, 10 years ago, this conference would not be feasible, because it really, while there was always lots of animators, while there was always lots of talent, that actual like connection, that sense of community, that kind of interaction, the type of things like GPP has been trying to build up and GGDA is trying to build up the last like 15, 20 years, really hasn't existed. So to me, the future of Georgia is really, no matter what, is a sense of community. It's a sense of being able to bring all these different crew bases, talent bases, all these different people together to not only about your career, because a lot of people, I guarantee some people in this audience, you don't actually want a career in animation. You just love animation. You just want to make stuff. And to me, that's just as vital to having a viable industry, is that you need a range of people. It's not just people who want to work in industry. It is the people who love this and who just want to make it and I want to support it. So to me, that's a huge part, I think, about the future of our industry, is just having that kind of cohesive and like very embracive ecosystem that welcomes everybody, whether you want to actually make money off of this or you just want to get a bunch of friends together for a weekend and make a game in 48 hours.
And before I pass this to Asante, so he can prove that the best are the last, I did want to piggyback on what you said, that really what has distinguished Atlanta and Georgia in general from every other entertainment nexus I've seen is the willingness of everybody to work together. In Texas, we've had film and games fight over tax credits. We don't see the New York's got this epicenter, but again, they don't work together. Here, everybody is coming together, supporting each other's efforts, building up the talent base, building up the great productions here, and there really is nowhere with that sort of combined strength that I've seen anywhere. All right, Asante, now tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, you guys actually nailed it. Next time I'm going first, so I'll have something to say. I don't know why I handed it off to you guys. Hello, everybody. Asante Bradford. I'm with the Georgia Film Music Digital Entertainment. I focus on the digital entertainment part, and these guys are actually being very humble. I've known most of them since I've been there, and you guys have done. First off, let me give you guys a pat on your back for what you guys have done to continue growing and doing what you guys have done for the industry. And Andrew, you are right; it is a group effort. So the future for entertainment in Georgia, and I think Andrew nailed, no, Charles nailed this one. You won't have to leave the state anymore. The opportunities that are coming here is amazing to even think and say something like that, because when you look at animation, you kind of, to me, Burbank is animation right now. That's where all of the studios are. But literally, those guys have, in the last year, I've been talking to pretty much most of those animation studios. What's also great, which parallels what we've seen in the gaming industry, is some of the companies that have been here long are continually growing and adding. So what's really exciting about that is Bento Bots being one of the bigger ones we got here. They're literally right now in Pinewood shooting a movie for 2 years. So they're going to be out there for 2 years shooting a movie. But they're also looking at a studio space to continue growing and bringing more of their television shows here, which is great. Same thing when you talk about Floyd County. Floyd County obviously has a great hit, Archer, but you're right. Now they're literally working on their first animated movie, which is great. And I know of at least two or three other animated projects, studios that are in place now, but most of them are looking for funding, and hopefully one of them got it already. So the future in animation, I want to piggyback on you, Andrew. We to me had a lot of the other things in place, but what we have now is literally you guys, and he's right about that. It's all about workforce. So even when the companies come here, and like I think we covered two or three of the other important things, obviously quality of life, cost of living, great airport, and all those things we can brag about Atlanta. But it literally is you guys. They want to know that this workforce is going to be there. These guys are cheap. I'm not going to curse. They're cheap as, and if they can find it here, believe me, they will jump on it in a heartbeat. And the good thing is they're finding it. And it's just nothing like, to me, walking in a place, and I always mess around like, okay, where are you from? And oh, I went to school at SCAD, or I went to school at Art Institute, or and but man, they're placing. If there are any school people, you are doing an incredible job. The other exciting part, and I think Andrew was getting on this too, is man, we're starting to see it at the elementary level now. The school is following. I mean, the school, excuse me, are following our lead. What all of us are doing, and I mean, they're coding in kindergarten now. They're building broadcast centers in the schools, and so for me, and what we do as far as recruiting, when I could tell those stories, and say, hey, look, man, in the next 10 to 15 years, you won't, we're building everything you need. So anyway, I don't want to take too long, but what's your next question, man? I got the mic, man. I got the mic. I forget that question, man. I got this first. I don't think you're gonna like what I say, but I'm gonna say it. And I say, you never want to go to Hollywood. You want Hollywood to come to you. So if you are a singer and you tell me you're a singer, and I come and ask you, okay, sing, and you say, well, the weather's not good, or my voice needs so cracking, or then I don't take you seriously. It's the same thing I would say in animation. And Andrew and I notice in gaming. If you're going for the job and you have nothing against college or anything, but if you have the degree, and then this kid or another person comes and they have built 4 or 5 games, guess who they're going to hire? So if you're an animator, make some animation. Well, I was an animator before I started this. I made animation. I won some awards, but that's how I got pretty much in the position I'm in now. People saw it. I went to film festivals. I did the circuit. So my answer is basically, I don't know if that's what y'all want to hear, but my answer is do it yourself and make them come and find you.
I'm gonna piggyback off of what Asante said. If you're an animator, you need to animate so people can see it. Um, but I'm gonna go a little further. Years ago, I worked for a motion capture company, Giant Studios, and we did the motion capture for like Lord of the Rings, Avatar, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with with mocap, but what it is that it's basically you build a skeleton, but you also need animation to go along with this for the skins, for the backgrounds, for everything. So anyway, so the company that I work for, basically we would get all of our talent from Los Angeles or New York, from someplace else. Well, maybe just a couple of weeks ago, I was on the phone talking with them. They've since sold that company to James Cameron, but now there's a new company. I think it's like, do you know the name of Matt Madden's company? Primal, I
Oh,
think.
Batman.
Yeah. Well, I'll remember it. But I was talking with him. They were working on something out at Pinewood, one of the big tent poles, and I was talking to him about talent and where he could find it. And he said that they could not hire here because they didn't. He was not aware that the talent existed here. And I'm like, are you crazy? I've got like a team of people behind me. So I'm going to connect them. But the thing is, make yourself known. People don't even know what you're able to do, what you can do if you don't post it, if you don't show it, if you don't make things. Throw it up on Vimeo, throw it up on YouTube. uh, Even for me, one of my biggest clients, all pretty much all that we do is animation with them. And so you never know where it's going to come from. Anybody who creates content is going to need animation. I don't care if it's lower thirds or bugs or whatever it is, motion design, anything. Just make yourself known.
Yeah, and we actually used Giant for a game almost 20 years ago, so that tells you something about how versatile they were. And you weren't working for them back then. You were still in elementary school back then. You know it. So yeah, the point's very clear that what you do in college isn't the bulk of your portfolio. In fact, we hear this specifically on the game side from the companies when they're hiring. They have seen your same animation that was done for your class project 2,000 times, and they never want to see it again. They specifically want to see what you did outside of class, and even better, what you actually did for a game. And I know that the animation companies want to see animations that you did for real production outside of school.
No more walk cycles.
Yeah, oh my God, yes, yes. Another walk site. That is exactly what the recruiters do not want to see ever again. They want to see very specific things. If you want to get into games, make a game. It is so easy now. We just came from the Microsoft store. We did a Unity training there, how to make games. Most of the attendees were high school kids. We had high school kids come from St. Simon's Island, I think, as well as like from Arabia Mountain and all other places around the metro area. So it is very easy to form these teams. There'll be another. Global Game Jam at the end of January. We'll have, of course, our Siege convention October 6th to 8th. But make the game, make your own animation, do it outside of class. Use those skills that you developed in class to make something that you're passionate about, and those passions will show through. That'll be the first thing in your portfolio, in your reel, the first thing they'll see, and that'll make them want to keep looking at the reel, and we believe want to hire you.
All right, so I'm going to say, just from a recruiter standpoint, that the first thing you need to do when you get out of school and you're looking for work is to get right back on the computer and to start connecting with people. Animation is no longer something that you have to do with just the people around you, it's a global activity. And you can find different skill sets and people with similar interests as you online. So start collaborating with them to get the portfolio things that you need. So if you're an animator, you may need a character designer, a storyboarder, maybe even a new writer, and you can find those people online. You also should look for your jobs online. There are tons of postings. I know with my animation life, we have a classified ads where we comb the internet. So there are tons of postings that are constantly being added to it. But you could also comb it yourself. And even better, you could reach out and create these jobs. So there are ways for you to place bids on projects that are happening even as a student. And that's a way for you to generate income. I know as a student, it's a little daunting to think about placing bids and being like big and fancy like a big studio places bids, but you can do that even on a small scale on smaller projects and begin getting the experience you need to build that portfolio. And just know that when you are looking for jobs online, the pay will vary. So you're in a western country. If you're expecting western pay, you need to look in another Western country. If you are okay with your pay scale, you're flexible right now, then I would say look anywhere. And that's a way for you to get a job at a company that you may not be able to get without a higher level of experience here in Georgia. But know that there are over 80 brick and mortar studios and tons of virtual studios here in Georgia. So you do have a lot of options. And if you're looking for a map, there's a My Animation Life Georgia map, and it's the most inclusive for Georgia. You just go on there, you'll see tons of animation studios. See, what else can I say about finding a job?
Wow, you can give an hour presentation on those, but you also have game studios on your map.
Yeah, there's game studios too. It counts. Game studios count too. So anything that moves, that's motion graphics, interactive game, any content, commercials, etc. Those are jobs that you can look for, and don't just look in traditional animation listings. Like there's animated jobs, but you can also look on a dentist website and see that they need artistic work done. Or like Lisa was saying, go to all these other places where people need work. Everyone needs animation.
Just repeat it.
Yeah,
That way they'll think online that you came up with it.
I could. So I have a question. So in the last year, how many people have worked either on an original game concept or an original show concept, whether it be yours, or somebody else's? So the reality is, going back to like the future of Georgia entertainment, the one thing is first is like really developing more original content out here. One is just the reality of having more people who actually own the IP. I think the one things that we have to realize, there's so many more outlets, and the reality is like if you're out there developing these projects, whether it be a game, whether it be a show, the more you can have control over not only your own career but the type of stories we tell. Right now I'm looking at this audience, and it's an incredibly diverse audience, but let's be honest, of the content I see out there, I don't see everybody who's actually out in this audience. So that's the biggest role you can play in developing content. But the other thing is also the reality is like if we want people to come to town, like the big players, the reason they're coming to town is not because other big players are here. They're coming because they see smaller studios. Asante, I won't go into the details, but there was one big gaming company that thought about coming to town a couple of years ago. The thing that they were looking for was not for other companies. They were looking to see how many smaller game companies existed here. Because the reality is the talent, the people they're going to hire, aren't going to come from other companies. They're not going to poach other people. They're going to be looking at the companies that are here. And that's going to be the companies that are started by you folks out here. So the reality is like not only can you control your own destiny, but the reality is if you want to bring the big players to town, if you want to bring other people to town, the work you create is going to bring those people here. And the one of the things that I feel like we really fail is that we really don't encourage college students. We don't really encourage people while they're in school to create content, to really think seriously about it. We kind of say it, but the reality is we kind of say it in a way where it's kind of like I don't think any of I guarantee if I talk to most of you, you'll admit that most professors, when they say it, you don't really believe they honestly want you to actually create your own show. And what you really need is somebody to really push you and say, no, really create your own show. Even if it doesn't come to fruition, I think between like what Andrew and Alyssa and everybody else is saying, the reality is like these are going to lead to jobs, whether it's creating original content, whether it's working on something smaller. What you create is going to create your own destiny. It's going to bring people to you. It's going to give you a lot more control. But again, for Georgia, that's that collective effort, that collective energy. That is what's going to keep bringing people here because they're going to come where they're excited. I mean, that's exactly what happened in LA. I mean, it's an old story. Everybody moved from New York to LA way back in like 100 years ago because they were trying to get away from there. But because all these people moved at the same time and were creating this content, it made Hollywood. Hollywood didn't exist. It's the same thing in New York with the theater scene. When creators all move together, when they're all working together in that one space, everybody follows. That's just how this works.
One thing I'll say about that is that I definitely agree that when you're in school, you're pushed to go into the film circuit, more like the festival, where you make your thesis or you make your final film and then you put it out for people to watch at your school's theater or at the local theater, but it never gets further than that. But now we have so many opportunities for distribution that we can start banding together and making these shows. One thing I want to say is that 60% of my Animation Life clients come from California, and they're looking for animators in Georgia and artists in Georgia because of not just because we do cost less than the artists on their side, but because of our style and because of our work ethic and the way that we're so cheerful and upbeat and we're friendly people overall. We're good to work with. So us creating this content is just an opportunity for us to push our own feel onto the animation industry. You've got the feel of New York. You know a New York animator when you work with a New York animator. You know a California animator. And now you can know a Georgia animator as being some of the best animators in the country and some of the best people to work with.
And what Charles said about the larger studios looking for smaller ones is very true, not just to poach workers, but to straight up buy and use that to establish themselves. That's definitely what how the game industry often works. When an outside large company will come to an area, they're looking for a smaller studio to buy. And Georgia is an incredibly good place to start a new studio. The tax credits are there. You might not qualify for them immediately, but they're very achievable. For game development, you need $250,000 in payroll, which means 5 or 6 good people, and you can hit that. There are investors who are very interested in this space now. As Lisa said, we've very much been a production hub up until now, but we're starting to become that IP hub. In Georgia, our biggest games are all owned by Georgians, and all that money is coming right here. I mean, we love to have Baby Driver and things like that happen here, but those are owned elsewhere. The games are being owned here. We're starting to see more of the animation being owned here, and that means bigger studios are going to come pumping money into the community. We do an investment conference in Siege on October 6th. If you have some sort of digital entertainment company you're interested in pitching, there are investors out there interested in talking to you. On top of that, the fact that people like Asante exist is incredible. The state is actively working to build this industry. It's not just saying, oh, yeah, it's nice, make it happen. They're out there making this happen right now. And we're doing this in DeKalb County. I chair the DeKalb Entertainment Commission, and we're actively looking for animators looking to set up shop out there, how we can support them. We're doing trainings and so on. So it's just an incredible time to build a studio and make something happen.
And I want to piggyback off of a couple of things. When Charles was talking about spec work, do spec work. One of the things when I'm looking at reels to hire animators or motion designers or whatever, I don't care if the work was client work or spec work. I'm looking at the quality of the work. And I may even be more impressed if you tell me it's spec work because when I'm looking at a reel, especially when I'm looking with the artist, I want to know, so what did you do on this? And if it was your idea and you came up with it, then I know that you can think around whatever I can give you. So make spec spots. We make spec spots to share with clients when we're pitching for jobs. So that's an excellent thing to do. And the second thing I want to talk about is uh, also a big hand for Asante and the Georgia Film Office uh, because they also work with GPP and they're very involved with making sure that the entire state of Georgia knows that the entertainment industry is not just for Atlanta, like some people may assume, but it's for all of us. So, and it's once you get to, I'd say like the outer counties, because what is it, 152 camera ready communities that we have. Every the, every county in Georgia. Yes, and a lot of cities they're doing stranger things in I think Butts County. Don't just send your yes, so don't just send your stuff to just the small knot right here. Send it out. Let people know what you can do. So you never know where opportunity is.
Okay, I wish I was last this time. They nailed it, man. I got one coming. Got one coming.
Well,
They'll probably take it.
I doubt it. Um, if you do want to start your own company, I would say first of all, talk to Lee more and talk to someone like Lee. Make sure that you have a good legal foundation for it because you're an artist. That's what you do. That's what people are expecting you to do. People who can watch your back and make sure that you're protected legally, that you've got every permit that you need, that you're not just out shooting in somebody's park and then they come and chase you off and you're not even allowed to use the footage that you had, that sort of thing. You don't need to worry about that. You need to build a nice team around you uh, that worries about your financial, your legal, just to build that bedrock for you. So that's my advice.
Hey, Justice, you don't get away that easy. You got to put on my slide. Oh, it's been up. The only thing you're looking at is my slide of statistics. How exciting. Animators looking at a beautiful slide of statistics. Bet you all have been enjoying that. Yes, so first of all, I want to just emphasize what Lisa said. A team. Get a team. It can be a team with outsiders, a lawyer, accountant, business advisor, et cetera. It can be an internal team. So you got an animator, concept artist, storyboarder, writer, someone handling biz dev, all of those different areas. But get a team. There are single person studios, and they generally have other people who work with them too. The more successful ones are the stronger teams. We've got a group here in town, Tripwire Interactive, started with 4 people, has exploded into a world phenomenon. Well over 50 high-res studios, I believe, also started around 4 or 5 people, and is now 400. But that same core team in both of those cases are still at those studios 10 years later. So get a core group with whom you can work. Second, there are a lot of resources to pull on. I mentioned before the DeKalb Entertainment Commission. You can talk to me about that after this. A lot of different resources that can go your way if you're looking to start a company, and it is great to have lawyers and like involved. But don't be scared off. Don't think that because you need a lawyer involved, it's frightening. You actually don't necessarily need a lawyer, but I'd strongly recommend you talk to one at the very least. But it's still a very easy process to start a company here, and there are lots of resources to get that going. I mentioned Siege. I'll mention it one more time, siegecon.net, October 6th to 8th. We've got a lot of sessions on how to start your own game development studio, and so much of that applies to animation and any other creative industry. SIEGECON.net. And thank you very much. You're so good at that. And you can find it off of ggda.org, short for Georgia Game Developers Association.org.
I will also be at Siege. So
Talking about how to break into the industry.
yes. So when you're an artist, you're often told to be creative, that's what you're good at. And I find it a little offensive when people look down on the business side of art or look at artists as if they are not capable of simple mathematics or reading or anything outside of just putting pen to paper. Stop looking at yourself like that and know that you are more than capable of becoming your own strong business entity. I'd like to say that you're always working for yourself. Even if you're at a studio, it's always your brand, it's always you're selling. And at the end of the day, it's not the person signing off on that paycheck that determines whether your future is going to be bright or not. It's you.
I just want to say something based on what you said. A joke I'm making, it's not really a joke. Math is just animating numbers. Take one number, combine them into a scene.
When I first started, my company, My Animation Life, it's only been a little over 2 years. Just like a sweat thinking about how short amount of time it's been and how much has happened. But I thought I knew a lot about business, and I had to take a lot more business classes. I had to take classes on contract writing, on negotiations, on bid procurement, on that kind of stuff. And it seemed daunting at first, but if you take small nibbles and just learn one thing at a time and keep building on it, you'll learn a bunch. And you don't have to wait until you've learned it all to start. You should start because law is something that is constantly changing. Contracts and the way we negotiate with each other and the way we talk to each other are always changing. So go ahead and get your feet wet now, even if you don't plan on starting your company for the next 3 years, 5 years out or so. Go ahead and start getting your feet wet on learning what it takes to build a business. Why certain businesses are the way they are, like what's an LLC, what's an S corp, like learn all that stuff now. reach out to your entertainment lawyers. We have Lee Morin here. We have Letterbox Legal here. We have other entertainment lawyers in this city that are so helpful. If you go somewhere else and you're looking for help from entertainment lawyers or from anyone else, you may not find them as friendly as here in Georgia. Now is the time for you to get your education because we are budding and we have this like push towards we just need more skilled workers, more skilled talent. Education is nearly free. It's not going to be that way for long. So if you're smart, get it while it's hot because it's going to be gone. It's going to be just like I just came back from California with Charles. And I went to some meetups on meetup.com and I saw some of the resources they offer, and they're not to the level as what's here. You can't get a conference like this for such low cost, and you can't meet people who are trying to build the industry like this who are just going to be friendly and be like, oh, yeah, sure, let's help you. Let's do everything we can. So go ahead and consume as many resources as you can right now, and you'll be a lot better off when you do start your company. There you go. Okay, Asante, you've been called.
You don't want to go, Charles? um, I just real quickly too, so we can move on to the next question. I totally agree with everybody said. I think you guys actually just nailed it again. Um, but the trend is going to start happening anyway. So what's happening actually at Georgia Tech now, incoming freshmen, they're actually starting businesses. And they are actually grooming them for the next couple of years to actually, when they graduate, they will have their business ready. A couple other schools are starting to do that too. So that is going to be coming anyway for any students that are here. And plus, I mean, again, I think even for all of us in our lifetime experiences, you got to work from 9 to 5 to pay your bills. But what we see in the game industry, some of these employees, when they get off work, they're working on their stuff, their own IP you're talking about, which I think is great. And we've seen a couple that have gone. I've seen from 2 or 3 of them like, hey, we're leaving these companies. We're going to start our own thing. So I'm a big, and Atlanta, I totally agree with all the stuff you guys say. Just economically, it just makes sense here. It's much easier to start a business here. And what we're seeing, I'm literally down the street at Tech Square. What we're seeing in that area as far as on the funding side is great. And they're following a lot of our leads. They're looking at entertainment now. I mean, we know that this town is not an entertainment funding type town yet, but they are asking the questions. And I think Andrew nailed it too, with the tax credits being a part of it. That's going to attract these investors. So yeah, I think you guys nailed it. And I just think that there couldn't be a better place. Anybody want to say anything else on that?
Oh, I thought we were going to move to the next question. I would say the biggest thing is I would say is just kind of what we've been going over and over again about the importance of participating in conferences like this and being members of these organizations. So, like right now, how many of you are members of Georgia Game Developer Association? Georgia Production Partnership? ASIFA? Atlanta Film Society? So right now, my animation life. So right now, one of the things I definitely see as an issue is right now is there's not a lot of overlap, and there's a lot of just just a few hands. The reality is like whether it be from the business side, whether it be the creative side, the more you're a part of these organizations, the more you can not only meet people, but you can influence this conversation. Like one of the conversations we just had, like before we started, was about like right now one of the big issues right now is housing in Atlanta. Like it's getting super expensive. I think for most of you, if you're going to start your careers here, those are questions you're going to be asking, like, where do I live? Where do I go? These are all things that all these organizations are a part of all these conversations, everything from funding and everything else. Your participation, your voice is critical to making sure that these things are like not only addressed, but that you can play that role. But when you guys don't participate, that doesn't help us. That doesn't help you. That doesn't help us organizations. So I would just encourage you, join these organizations. There's plenty of events in town. Atlanta Film Society does Eat, Drink, and Be Indie. I run a weekly event called Film Bar Mondays. Every Monday it's free. There's tons of stuff in this town. The more stuff you're doing, the more you're talking to people, the more you're interfacing, the better it's going to be. But the reality is the only way this industry grows is you actually have to participate. You can't just come to events like this and show up and then go home. you have to keep being engaged, because I guarantee you, like most of us, well, you're in your 30s. The rest of us are on us your 20s. 20s. Yeah, the 20s. The rest of us are a little older. I think we would all tell you like how yeah, I'm being careful. I'm being careful. I'm being careful. But I think we would all just be very honest about it. I think we all, if we could go back and be 23 or be 30 again, the choices we would make about the groups and organizations, because I think the impact it would have on our, because I think we all feel very good about where we're at, but where we could be if we had just put a little more effort when we were that age and were just a little more engaged, especially because I guarantee you half this audience probably bitch and whine and moan about stuff, but you probably don't bitch and whine and moan to the people who actually need to hear you actually bitch, whine, and moan. And trust me, even us, we actually need to hear you. Like, if you see something you don't like, we need to hear that. We don't need you to like tell people privately, because this is stuff we care about, but also we need to fix this stuff and we need to put this stuff in place. So that's my challenge to all of you, is to be always be engaged, always speak up, be a part of different organizations and show up, because you're like it's been said over and over again, you are the future of this industry.
Try getting in with an organization in California or in New York, of any of the caliber of these organizations here. It'll be extremely difficult. But here in Georgia, you can get in on the ground floor. You have people, even in GPP, they are welcoming new people to come in and join their board. Yeah, they are welcoming people. You don't see that in other states. If you want to get in on the ground floor of an organization, I always say start your own. That's a great thing for you to do, because then you can go ahead and elevate your own status and elevate the status of the state. But an opportunity like joining GPP, and other organizations that are here in Georgia, this is the time to do it, because once more people start coming in, there's going to be more competition. So definitely think about, like, this is the time.
And to build on that, for the GGDA, our next meeting is September 12th at Kennesaw State University, and actually focuses on volunteering for a lot of things that are going on around town. So if you want to get involved, there's little better opportunity than that. September 12th, information at ggda.org. And if you need good affordable housing, come on out to the cab. Maybe phone's getting a little pricey. Uh-oh.
Oh yeah. Speaking of meetings, on September 10th, please come to Samflex in Midtown. That's the one right across from SCAD. We have a job and internship hunt. So if you're looking for a job in animation, it's completely free. It won't be free forever, but it's free right now. And we have industry leads come out and just help you get a job. They'll even look at your portfolio and give you critiques.
So, no, real quick. So, a good example is like GGDA. One of the best meetings I went to was at GGDA, where a company kind of went into was it Tiny Robots? Yeah, Dragon Army. So, like a local company, Dragon Army. Like, yeah. So, like they kind of went over their app. They went way under the hood. Like they went over like everything about how they developed the game, the how they kind of iterated, how they tried to make it like revenue, and like it was one of the most educational meetings I'd ever been to. Watching a company really kind of dissect, and they were very honest. And that's the other thing about a lot of these opportunities. It's not just people who are going to tell you about like, hey, it's awesome to film in Georgia, to make games in Georgia. A lot of these organizations, what they're doing is providing an opportunity for other companies and other people to kind of give you real insights into this business that you don't get whether you are already working or you're in school. Because I mean, I think for all of us trying to educate ourselves and always be up to date on like, how do I make money with an app? And how, if my app is not working, how do I take that to the next level? Or if I am trying to develop a story to pitch to somebody, how do I keep developing it? Like that's a hard thing, but there's a lot of these people, these organizations where these people are sharing those stories. They're willing to bare their souls and let them show, like, see the mistakes they made. So again, like just be involved, because the amount of information and what you can get from what people are providing it's amazing. And again, like Lewis has said, I'm sorry I say Lewis because there's a reason behind it. I'll tell you later. But there's like like you don't get a lot of these opportunities in a lot of other places, whether it be New York or LA. So really take advantage of what's here.
And we also have Hey, you're never getting it, Asante. We also have a YouTube channel with a lot of our past meetings, including the one that Charles referenced. At on YouTube, it's Georgia Game Devs, DEVS. So check it out.
Okay, we got the mic. And I wanted to piggyback on that. The next GPP meeting is this coming Tuesday. I think it's going to be an evening meeting at 7:30 at the IIC building, like on the south side, but it features Floyd County. So that'd be a great opportunity. Yes, a great opportunity to come face to face with someone there, and it's just going to be a conversation with between me and I think his name's Neil, and right now his last name escapes me. But if it's just a conversation between two of us, I will open it up so there'll be plenty of Q&A. So you've got that, and I also wanted to hit on the fact when like Charles and Allyssa were pushing join these organizations. The thing about Georgia, we are incredibly friendly, and we all do try and help each other out when we can. But we also like to work with people that we know. So if you are a part of this organization, you get to know people, they get to know you, then they can refer you, or they can hire you, or it's that's just the way that it is, and that's why being a part of these organizations is so important. And there are others that we did mention, like Women in Film, Film Fatale, uh, of course, GPP, which we did mention. But there are lots of ways to connect and to be a part of this industry and meet the people who are hiring or who can put in the word to get you hired.
Um, Also, I think we were talking a little about what's coming. We have also passed a post-production tax credit that'll be starting in January. So starting to see a lot of movement on the VFX side of things, special effects side of things. And as you guys know, that's a big part of the movie business. So again, if some of your skill sets may translate into that side of the industry as well, I think that's going to be an incredible opportunity for some of you guys. So there is like talk right now of getting what's called the VFX Society here. They're based in LA, but I think we'll be able to get it. We're working on, well, a group is working on getting a chapter of that here as well. So, and then I think to what Charles was talking about, there's what's happening right here in Georgia, specifically Atlanta, where we are right now. There's nothing that can compare to this anywhere that I've ever seen, and maybe you guys might seem different, but I'm literally grew up in LA and literally in the backyard of Hollywood, and the opportunity here, if you really want to get in this industry, and I'm being a little broad from film, digital entertainment, music, any of that, it couldn't be a better place to be. And you guys do not need to leave the state, really. Stay here. Oh, okay. Do you know it better than me?
I think we're about equal.
Yeah. Just breaking stuff now. Well, I can tell you the high level stuff. I cannot tell you all the figures and all yet because it's we're actually literally going through a lot of that now. It really won't be coming through us. It's going to be going through our Department of Revenue. So the cool thing is, I think Andrew, we saw about this week, which is great. We're actually working together now, which is awesome. So basically now, if you go shoot your movie in Timbuktu, you can bring it here to Atlanta, and now the post-production companies will be able to get the tax credit. I'm not sure what that minimum spend is yet, though. I've seen, because you can be in different tiers. I'll give it to you in a sec. Because I know I won't see it again. So that's the basic thing. So right now, New York is the only place that has that where you can shoot somewhere. So we will be one of the only ones. And what's great about that, before I hand it over, is right now post production is basically an expense inside of a film. You basically work for hire if they hire you here, which is great too, because we've gotten a couple companies moving here, but companies are now looking because now the post production companies will be able to get the credit themselves. That's what's really exciting. So go ahead.
So the legislature did a great job in creating and crafting this credit. We were allowing post-production on films that were lensed here, that are actually produced here. This expands that significantly and lets the industry build a great deal as a result. There is a payroll requirement to qualify for the credit, but then your the amount of credit is based on how much you actually spend above and beyond just the payroll side of things. So it is a little involved. There is a default 20% credit, which is it's great. I mean, if you spend uh, $1 million on post production and it's aggregated, so it's not just one production. If you spend $1 million, there's 200,000 suddenly back right there for your investors, for you to use, for you guys to sell off or whatever. So it will have a significant impact. And one of the great things that we've seen on the game side is that investors don't know entertainment in not just Georgia, but the Southeast in general. Entertainment's a new area to them. They know real estate. They know, yeah, exactly. They know some basic things, but this gives them a confidence level to move into an area they're not really certain of. And you still need to show all the other fundamentals: a good team, a good plan, realistic goals, a realistic revenue stream. But on top of that, this is what can kick an investor into saying, all right, I can support this industry, I can get involved. And then you do all the other risk management things. I don't know, maybe you get product placement involved with it. You find other ways to make money as part of the animation. You make sure that you've copyrighted your art so that you can sell your art on above and beyond just doing it in the original animation or whatever else.
Can you speak on the music portion of it?
Okay, and there's also a music credit. Yeah, I do spend far too much time down at the legislative offices in this state. Thankfully, they haven't thrown me out yet. I expect that soon. Uh, but we also do have music credit, which is again a good bit different, and it is not attached to the entertainment tax credit like the game side is. It is its own standalone credit, and it does allow for a tax credit, as I understand it, for both the big touring companies, so you can have a big production come into town, but also for creating great works. For instance, we can already do it for a game in Georgia, but now you could do music for games outside of Georgia and generate a credit accordingly. And again, it's aggregating. It's bringing together a number of different things that you've created to reach the threshold levels. I got the mic. I got the mic. So, for those of you watching this, we have a game jam in Columbus, Georgia on September 8th. So you can go make games. So if you want to go down to CSU, you're welcome to and get your art in games. That the weekend. I'm sorry, not just September 8th. The weekend of September 8th. Who else needs to plug some big events coming up? There you go. Plug away.
Yeah. Everyone, you're going to DragonCon, correct? Yeah, woo, DragonCon! If you're going to DragonCon, My Animation Life is doing a panel called Strategic Staffing, and we did it once at Siege. Molly is totally on board with us spreading it out there. But basically, it's going to teach you how to hire creative leaders. If you have a organization that you want to start, or even just get your friends together, it's going to teach you how to choose the right friends and what you need to know before you get them together. Very little legal and mostly strategic. And if you'd like to just have a free dinner, Letterbox Legal is sponsoring an animators dinner on the 22nd of September. That's downtown at the Civic Center for Innovation. It's completely free. It's going to be some good food. You can just hang out. We're going to play some games. Don't worry if you don't have a business card or resume. It's just about meeting people and having fun.
All right, and I mentioned Film Bar Mondays. I said it's every Monday. It's free. It starts around 6 p.m. The next one will be this Monday at Mac McGee's in Decatur. It's kind of really about community building. Our tagline is no business cards, no headshots, no desperation. It's really just about getting people together, hanging out, getting to know the people, and hopefully from that, people create work, find jobs. Also, if you actually go to Film Bar Mondays, there's actually under our files tab, I have a where to start in Georgia kind of document that includes most of these organizations that are on there, and GGA, Atlanta Film Society, a bunch of stuff. Also, just Facebook groups, anything else. So, like, if you're having a hard time getting started, where to begin, just go there, because a lot of once you get sucked into like one of these organizations, usually you can start getting connected to a bunch of other ones.
Yeah. If you email myanimationlife@gmail.com, that's my animation and then life at gmail.com, we can send you a list for animation. Charles has a tons of like if you are looking for festival or live action, Charles has actually been in the industry for forever and has been in almost every festival that I've ever heard of.
He's like old.
Yeah, no, no. I'm just saying he just knows a lot. So definitely look at him for. Okay, he can have it. He can have it. Yeah. If you're looking for animation, anything, if you're looking for what are the organizations, where can I set up shop, where can I start working, where can I get software programs, where can I get tutorials, or even mentorships, which are the fastest growing things that we have that we offer with My Animation Life. So if you're looking for someone to hold your hand and be like, this is how you make it in the industry, send us an email and we can get you matched with someone. Sure you have some.
Sure, I'll plug some more things. I will also be at Dragon Con, just following her around, and I will be speaking on virtual reality. So if you want to check that out, and this is becoming a hot spot for virtual reality, come join me there. I'm letting it go this side now.